Hello, my name is Francis D'Ambrosi. I'm a medical doctor. I've been board certified in orthopedic surgery, in spine surgery, and yes, I have a flamingo phone case. I did 20 years of spine surgery. About 5 years ago, I faced a practice that was filled with patients who were in incredible pain, and almost all of them addicted to opioids. I thought at that point, I would stop with the opioids and try to figure out a way to get my patients off of it. So for the past 5 years, I've been treating patients with opioid addiction, heroin addiction, alcoholism, benzodiazepams, Ambien addictions. I've successfully treated over 10,000 patients and removed them from those dangerous drugs and put them on cannabis. So I'm going to speak to you today about the biochemical pathways of the endocannabinoid system. Now, the endocannabinoid system was discovered in our bodies in the early 90s by a group of researchers out of Israel. What the endocannabinoid system is a series of checks and balances to allow us to live well, for our bodies to exist in its healthiest mean possible. Our body, if you think of it, is essentially a machine. And that machine loves to work at a certain level. It likes the oil level at a certain level. It likes the temperature at a certain level so that we can maximize the way we live. In order to maintain our steady state or our homeostasis, we have a series of checks and balances, similar to what we were supposed to have in the federal government. So what we have is, if you insult the body and if you elevate something in the body that's too high above the level it wants, we have a way to fix that. It's called the negative feedback system. If in our body we wind up having too much glucose after a meal, we send a signal to cells in the pancreas that then get turned on, as if you're turning on a key, releases insulin till it drives down the glucose to below that level, and then we send another signal to shut off that key. The same thing happens with the endocannabinoid system. It is like the master key for our entire bodies. We have the endocannabinoid system with receptors, these keyholes, throughout the body. Now, originally, it was discovered in the brain, in the periphery, in the nerve cells. And when we had this discovery, we found that there were centrally located receptors, called the CB1 receptors, and some in the periphery, the CB2. And what this essentially does, as I've said, is it keeps everything the way it's supposed to be. It overrides disease states. If you are sending too many signals from one nerve to another, for example, in someone who has seizures, the endocannabinoid cells can essentially turn off this overproductivity of the electrical impulses. If you want to look at it another way, if in a seizure state you've turned the faucet on and you can't shut it off so that the cup is overflowing and it's seizing and seizing and seizing, the endocannabinoid system is essentially the plumber you call to shut off the water. So the endocannabinoid system is how we function. We have our own ability to produce cannabinoids. That's why it's called endo, coming from within, as opposed to phyto, coming from a plant. So when we cannot produce enough anandamide, which is our endocannabinoid, our body gets a little haywire. It's not great. You bring a cannabis plant in, the keys look identical. The body doesn't see the key any differently. You can treat an enormous number of disease states with the keys coming from the cannabis plant. That's the beautiful thing about cannabis. And the previous doctor talked about how you cannot overdose on it. He's absolutely right. It's the safest key that we have in our arsenal. And at this particular point, it's still a Schedule I drug. So we really don't get a chance to use it unless you're lucky enough to live in a state that has laws that allow us to use this stuff. So, in my practice, we did a survey, and we evaluated almost 5,000 patients who filled out our survey. We wanted to try to find out why people use cannabis, because Originally, the endocannabinoid system was basically for nerves and for seizures, and that's where they found it. We wanted to see what disease states actually have endocannabinoid systems that can be successfully treated with cannabis. So even though we sent out about 10,000 of these surveys, we only were able to publish 4,700 because some people didn't want to put whether they were a man or a woman. They didn't want to put their age. I'm not quite sure why. They would tell you exactly what strains they used. They just wouldn't tell us whether they were a man or a woman. So we did the survey, and we found that the 5 most common reasons to use cannabis were for depression, for anxiety, insomnia, pain, and to get off opioids, and for headaches. My job is to elevate the conversation around cannabis, to make it medicine, and to make things that seem incredibly difficult not so difficult. The endocannabinoid system is a key lock system that will shut off sections of the body that are overworking and that are working poorly, and turn on sections of the body that need to be turned on, that need to be fixed in order to bring you to a steady state, to a wellness state. And I want to thank you very much for inviting me. It really was a high-stepping, knee-slapping, whimsical farce. Thank you so much.